Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm looking forward to getting to know you better and share a little bit more about my life and history and hopefully inspire you to, if you're on the fence with wanting to go to Mount Everest or climb Mount Baldy or any of these mountains on the Six Pack of Peak Challenge that you've been holding off on, that you'll feel encouraged to go for it. And so that is my ultimate goal with becoming an ambassador for Six Pack of Peaks, is to take it to the next level and help people make it up the mountains and make some friendships and help inspire others to reach their goals, no matter where they are in their life, whether it's a short hike or a longer hike or going to Mount Everest, whatever it is that you feel like you can accomplish it. And I feel like if I can do it, then anyone can do it. So that's my ultimate plan with my story tonight. So I'm glad that you could join us. All right, great. Yeah, my name is Sonia Pancratz, and I am an ambassador for the Six Pack of Peaks. I'm very excited about the opportunity to share with you some of my stories, some of my history, and how I started and where I got my inspiration to start hiking, and how my heritage has also got me into it as well. And I'm just hoping that as we go through some of my story, I'm able to encourage other people to find common ground and maybe say, hey, I can do that too, and jump in there and try some of these different adventures that I've done, and hopefully it helps inspire you to go and try it yourself.
Awesome. All right. So we'll just jump right into the PowerPoint. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Yeah. So for me, hiking started pretty much, I would say, even before I was born, as far as my heritage goes. I am fourth generation of Grand Canyon woman, have been living in the Grand Canyon. I lived in our homestead when I was 2. And at 5 years old, I was hiking 5 miles a day with my mom and grandfather along the Grand Canyon rim. My great grandfather, William Wallace Bass, his father, arrived in the Grand Canyon, and their family arrived in 1884 and built the first trails down the Grand Canyon, the Trans Canyon Trail to the bottom of the South Rim to the river, and built the cable cars to the North Rim, which was pretty exciting because back then there weren't any trails, and they had to pretty much build them from scratch. And living that, if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you know how hot it gets in the summer. And so I can't even fathom how hard they had to work back then to build these trails and go on these trails. But my hiking adventures began as a child, and that's pretty much what led me on these journeys. And the first pictures you see here, I took the picture of the Grand Canyon. That was a picture I took when I took my family down the river recently. And you can see in the top picture, the Cole brothers and William Wallace Bass, who was my great grandfather in the picture. That was one of the first settlers to raise a family on the rim of the Grand Canyon. The Cole brothers, they were one of the first to take a raft down the canyon and start creating movies. And so that is pretty cool that they all joined forces and were able to go down the canyon back in the day. And then the picture below it is close to where my family lived on the rim, and they would climb down into this section called Basecamp, where my grandparents lived when they were first starting out in the Grand Canyon. So I guess you could say, for me, it's been in my blood, so to speak, of being in the hiking world and having family that started as entrepreneurs and changed the tourism in the Grand Canyon, and then some. And so here I am today, still continuing hiking and these adventures, which is pretty cool to kind of look back when you get a chance to look back at your history, perhaps some of you also have family like this to kind of see, hey, we started um, doing this 4 generations ago, and here we are still doing the same thing. It's kind of cool. So those are the pictures that you see there that are represented with kind of some of the past that helped inspire me to go on some of the adventures I've been on since. And then from there, I grew up in, you see the picture there, of Horseshoe Bend, and that's a picture I took recently. So Horseshoe Bend used to be just there. It was never highly publicized or in social media or Instagram or anything. And I used to ride my horse there, and I used to just hike there just for fun. And also Antelope Canyon, which some of the slot canyons that you've seen in pictures. Those were pretty much my backyard. I grew up right outside of Navajo Indian Reservation in Page and graduated high school there. And so that was how my lifestyle was as a kid. We didn't have much money, so we spent a lot of time outdoors, doing a lot of hiking and exploring. And as kids, we never locked the doors, and we're always able to just go play outside and climb through these different slot canyons and experience Lake Powell, and which we could see right from where we lived. So that was a pretty cool upbringing that is way different than my kids have now. I have 3 kids now. We live in the suburbs of LA, and it's just a different way of growing up than what they are experiencing now. So hiking has definitely always been something I've loved and cherished. And this is a picture that I took down the Grand Canyon recently, also close to where my family would hike down to the river and plant trees and different things to get food, and then take tourists across on cable cars that they created that would go across from the South Rim to the North Rim. So I just thought I would share that because it was such a pretty day that day. And these are some more pictures that I took when I was in the Grand Canyon. Some of my recent adventures with our family, we would climb up through these slot canyons and go hiking through these waterfalls. And since I owned my photography company for over 20 years, I tended to take a lot of pictures all over the world, and these are some of the pictures that I took about 2 summers ago during the pandemic. We took the family down the river, and I got to show my family, some of my family heritage on the river of where their grandparents used to live.
Those are beautiful. Would you say that that was maybe, I know it was a little bit before your Everest trip, but would you say that was part of your training, or?
I feel like when I was putting this together, I kind of went back in history to kind of figure out where, kind of looking back at the past of all the different things I've done in my life. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to climb Mount Everest, to the summit of Mount Everest. About 20 years ago, it was my dream to do that. And coming from a small town where I was without a lot of money, Mount Everest just seemed so big. It seems like so far away. I just didn't feel like I would ever get the chance to go there because we didn't have the means to do that. And I never met anyone that had ever been there. And I bought this book. I had brought them a book from the library, and then I bought a coffee table book of Mount Everest, again, over 20 years ago. And I was so inspired then, and just thought someday I want to do that. But I just had no idea how it would ever come to be. But I knew that I loved the outdoors, and I knew I loved hiking. And at some point I hoped that I would be able to eventually make it to Mount Everest. And so as the years went on, and I had 3 kids, and we moved to different states, we moved to Texas and different areas, it was pretty flat. So I've had to change up some of my training. And any chance I got, I would go back to the Grand Canyon, for instance, and do some of this exploring and training. And then eventually, I would just say all of these things I've done have helped me to feel comfortable and feel confident, and to give me the, I guess, just to feel brave enough to be able to go to Mount Everest eventually and just make it happen.
Yeah.
And so I think just for maybe people out there that might be listening or watching, think, wow, maybe I don't know how I would ever get there. I don't know if I have the means to do that or the ability. And I just want to prove to you that you can. Like, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I didn't come from, you know, a background that would enable me to eventually be able to do something like that. But truly, looking back, I did. Like, all it does, it just takes,
All the little things building up.
all the little things building up, the right timing, financially being prepared, doing the research, just like this, like everything that I've done, just all the research to get there, what it takes to get there. And I'm going to get to some of that through some of these slides as well, what it takes to get there, and how it's really not that difficult as much as I thought back when I was a teenager. That just seemed like something that would never reach, never be able to be there, and be in a different country in that way, and explore it to that degree. And then I ended up doing that, going there, and other places too. So along the way, I ended up doing lots of different things for training. And one of the things that some of the things I've enjoyed doing the most, I guess so many things. I love exploring, and perhaps some of you enjoy doing some of these things as well. But I think it all helps you become really brave and build up your confidence and stamina to be able to go do something like Mount Everest Base Camp and beyond, really, truly, go to the summit. Like, I haven't ruled that out either. Just with 3 kids, it's hard to take off 2 or 3 months to go do that right now. But,
I'm sure.
but some of the training along the way, backpacking, I've been backpacking through parts of Europe. I did solo backpacking through Europe. And I became a scuba diver, and scuba diving in different parts of the world, and skydiving, and a marathon and race different races, and downhill skiing, snowboarding, cross country skiing. I've been to Iceland twice, and I've hiked all over Iceland, the first part of Iceland. These are some of the waterfalls in Iceland. I've hiked through all of these different waterfalls once, and then right before the pandemic, recently, I went back again and did the whole island as much as I could, hiked over glaciers and through glaciers, and so that was an amazing hiking expedition. Also, I did Peru, Machu Picchu, and Huayna Picchu was one of the hardest treks. And these are some of the pictures I took while I was in Machu Picchu and Iceland as well. Thankfully, we had great weather. Each time you can see how the mountains are just so beautiful. Sometimes they're just covered with the clouds, but we lucked out and were able to climb to the very top of that. And then really got into horseback riding and horse jumping. When I've lived in areas like Texas, for instance, that doesn't have mountains, I've always found a way to still work out and to still stay in shape and try to still stay fit, even though I didn't always live near these larger mountains like I do now in Southern California. We moved here 3 years ago, right before the pandemic, to Southern California, which has lots of mountains to explore. So that's another thing I would just try to encourage you all, if you don't live near mountains, to acclimatize, to get prepared for Mount Everest. There are other things you can do to still be prepared, because some of the members in our group that did Mount Everest with us, Basecamp, they did not. They lived in different parts of the country, and they did not have mountains near them to train. So they trained in different ways. Like my friend Amy, she she was from Dallas, and we went together, and she would carry a backpack around town and walk around town and walk, you know, in the stores and everything with her backpack. And then another friend, she's an avid um, runner, and she does these elite marathons. And I feel like just being the runner, like she actually did an even better than all of us, because I think just that running really pushes you, your heart and everything, sometimes even more than having these mountains, which it was interesting seeing how everyone trained a little differently. Some people lived in different places and how they trained to go to Mount Everest, because Mount Everest is 17, 598. Like it's really high, and it's really hard to breathe there. So the training definitely matters. But people in our group were between the ages of 20 and 70 years old. So everyone in our group, we all made it to the base camp. Like, so that was pretty awesome. And so anyway, those are some of the pictures from that experience, to help get me there, to move forward a bit more to get closer to Mount Everest.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then, so 3 years ago, our family moved from Dallas, which again is quite flat, and we moved here to Southern California, right above LA near Malibu. And we did not know, of course, that the pandemic was coming this way, but it did, and a lot of California shut down more than many of the other states. So right along that time, after we had just moved here, I was super excited to be here because I got to hike again and be close to all these mountains. And I met someone that was doing the 6 Pack of Peaks challenge, and they started telling me about it. And I thought, what is this about? This seems like this is so awesome. Like, tell me more. I was really excited about it because it seemed like it was something that really would, it was really intriguing, and it was right up my alley because I love hiking. And so the more I learned about it, the more I decided to go for the challenge. And 6 Pack of Peaks challenge, for those of you that don't know, is a challenge in different regions in different states. You can choose 6 of the peaks to summit, depending on where you live. There might be more or less to choose from, like Southern California has quite a few. And then you pick what you want and you go for it within that year's period of time. And so I started just going for some of the smaller peaks around here. And then I eventually, just kept adding one by one. I'd go with groups of people initially, and I would join different groups that were going. And that's the great thing about the 6 Pack of Peaks adventure, is there are so many different forums and ways to get connected to other people, that even being new here in a pandemic and being afraid maybe to go up some of these mountains alone as a woman, or just being new to the area and not knowing the area very well, or some of these mountains seem kind of daunting to me at first to go solo. I joined different groups, and 6 Pack of Peaks also has different groups that you can connect to and reach out to others and start hiking with people. So initially I started hiking with various groups of people and going for the summit. So I did that my first year, got really excited about it, and did a lot of those summits. I did all of the 6 Pack that first year in Southern California. Then I did the San Diego challenge as well, 6 of those, and did them all in 3.5 days. Just went down to San Diego and almost through the night almost every day, and just got really into it.
Yeah.
It was fun. So, and then the more I started doing it, the more comfortable I felt each year to start going, solo, or doing it more on my own if others weren't available.
Yeah.
And then also, because I had done these enough, that I started to bring people with me, or people that maybe have never hiked before, and help them reach their goals, which was really cool, because I had been able to reach mine, and that was fun to give back and show other people how they can also go for it.
Mhm.
And so that was really cool, especially last year. We spent some time with some folks that were just learning these trails as well, and helped them reach their challenge, which some people had never hiked before. So that was really cool to, and it was like really exciting to see them. Some of them teared up and had some really memorable moments on some of these summits because they accomplished their goals, and they didn't think they would ever be able to make it, and they did. And so that was neat to see and be a part of. So
That's
that was
that's
cool.
that's
Yeah.
always so cool to have that experience with somebody, and that's one of my favorite things, just in, I guess, in life in general, is being with someone when they realize that they can accomplish something that they weren't sure that they could do. That's a special.
And so then after that, after the first year, I just thought, this is something I really enjoy, and it's something I really want to do more of and help people. And my confidence started to build, and I started to feel more able to, every time I did a summit, because you start with some of the smaller summits, and then you start to work your way up to some of the bigger summits that are, sometimes 10, 15, 20-hour days. And then also when you join some of these groups, you meet different people, and it's like iron sharpens iron. You each start to, then you tackle backpacking, and you might tackle camping, or then solo camping, and more adventures. And they're just, I had no idea before I moved here that there was such a amazing group of people that are like-minded, that love the outdoors and love helping others and exploring the way I do. I just thought, oh my gosh, I found some of my people. Like, this is so cool. And so then the next year, the pandemic, when a lot of things were still closed, I just thought, it'd be fun to be an ambassador and be able to continue to help people in a bigger way, with also like-minded individuals that love nature and being outdoors. So that's when I jumped in to become an ambassador, and also kicked up a notch. Like, so the Six Pack of Peaks at that point was training for me to do Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney is the tallest peak in the contiguous United States here, besides Alaska. And so it that was a big deal. And here in Southern California, a lot of people train for that. And it's a real, it's just a beautiful mountain, and it's a lot of hard work to get there. And a lot of people do train with using these Six Pack of Peaks to train for Mount Whitney, even before Mount Everest, Base Camp, or Kilimanjaro, or some of these other mountains as well. So I felt like with doing this, I was prepared also to do Mount Whitney, that I did before Mount Everest Base Camp, and that was awesome. So the second year, I hiked every single day except 3 days out of the entire year. And I've done over 50 summits, and I think now, after 3 years, over 3,000 miles, all over backpacking. And I done Sea to Sea and Iron Mountain, and backpacking Ray Lakes, all kinds of adventures. So many doors have opened up for me, um, to just keep taking it up a notch and a notch and a notch, further and further. That I thought, you know what? I think Mount Everest, like, might be attainable now. I look at all of these summits and places I've been. Like, maybe I am ready. Maybe after handling Mount Whitney as a 14er, which is so high, then maybe I can go for Mount Everest Base Camp at this point and see how that goes, and then start the research there. And so that's how Mount Everest came back into the picture, and Six Pack of Peaks, and all of these other adventures, and my family history and heritage, and all of the hiking I've done, I think has really led me to through this journey to reach this goal, that it seems so unattainable, that became actually really, really not so challenging. you know, after you've done all of these things. It really was quite enjoyable. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
yeah.
All right. Okay, so
So in these pictures that we have posted here, this was our group, part of our group, and this one of the bridges that we crossed, which was beautiful. There are a lot of these bridges. When we finally did get the opportunity to go to Mount Everest and it started to become a reality, I met some people in the hiking world, and we became friends and we started doing a lot of these hikes. And they were saying, hey, you know, I really wanted to do Mount Everest Base Camp. And I said the same thing, like, yeah, me too. Like, this would be awesome to go and do that. And we started looking into it. Friend of mine, Norm, he's done Kilimanjaro. He's in the picture there with us. He had done Kilimanjaro with a guide that has done the summit of Mount Everest 6 times, now 6 times, because he just finished again his 6th time. And so he said, this is a great group that you would really love. And he's been wanting to do it. And so then before you know it, I have started to build this team. He starts to build this team of people and we come together as a group. And my friend Amy from Texas, she and I had talked about doing going to Everest someday base camp. And so this opportunity, we looked at the date, was this year, this March, right as the pandemic was starting to lift. Like it was a little iffy, like should we do it, should we not? But we were all excited to go for it, and seemed like good timing. The weather, everything looked great. And we had the guide that we wanted, who, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, to have that kind of a guide with us to help us along the way with his expertise. It all just came together. And so before you know it, we're signing up and we're training and we're, you know, we've done all this other training, but then we even stepped it up a notch, and then we're all talking and communicating and texting and training and organizing our bags and sending pictures of what we're bringing in our gear. And so that was really cool. It was a really cool experience that all came together, and some of the people came together also through this hiking world, through the Six Pack of Peaks challenge as well. So you just never know. Yeah.
I feel like it would be helpful to have other people to kind of like bounce ideas off of and kind of shake down gear together and kind of be like, oh, what are you bringing? I'm bringing this. What are you bringing?
Yeah, we were just sending pictures of our gear, and yeah, are you bringing, you know, do we need an ice axe? Well, no. What do we need? And so it was a fun thing to plan, exciting, and also just coming off of the pandemic, wondering what are we getting ourselves into, because we still have all of these. I had to go to a special medical doctor that's a travel doctor to get different shots to go there. And it just needed so many things, so much paperwork at the time. Now I don't think it's as much. Things lifted us a lot more for travel, but there was just so many documents and things to prepare to do this. But thankfully it did all come together, and surprisingly it was actually really somewhat of, I think, affordable compared to doing the actual summit of Mount Everest, which is, the actual summit runs from 100,000 on up. Like it's not attainable for me at this point, and especially with 3 kids. Still have 3 kids to raise, so I just don't have 3 months and over 100,000 to invest at this point to do the summit, even though that was my goal 20 years ago to make the summit. But just seeing now, after making it to base camp there, just watching the Kumbu ice fall and how scary things are now with how it's melting, and watching the earthquake that happened there, some of the video footage from that. And it just, I was pretty happy that we made it to the base camp. Pretty happy with that goal. Like that ended up, I don't feel like it was a lesser goal necessarily that's been making the summit. And I definitely give credit to all those people that make it to the summit, because that's, I mean, that is just absolutely amazing. Like our guide has made it to the summit 6 times. Like that just is unfathomable to me that he he takes people up there, all the way up there,
Yeah.
after actually being there and witnessing it and seeing it in person. Like that is hardcore. So
Right. So, um, before we start on this section, I guess when did you do your trip, and then how long was it kind of from the planning phase to the actual like starting out on the trip? I guess just for those.
yeah, I think well, we went in March this year, so I would say probably 4 to 6 months we started really talking about it, and then um, within 3 months, 6 months, and then down to 3 months. Um, so it started to go pretty quickly once we all committed, and it was and it was interesting because everyone, no one bailed out. Everyone in the group that was going to go went,
Hmm.
and I mean, because remember, like this is a tricky time to travel. Like
Yeah.
we were the first expedition to go up there. Um, with our group, we were the first group to make it up to base camp. It was really a neat experience to be there. It wasn't the busyness or the you don't see as many tents and everything as you would see later in the season from when we arrived. It was very peaceful, and I think just a different environment that would have been had we have gone during the full peak season. We went there right as climbers were just starting to get there, so it was nice. Um, yeah, so going there, once you realize, wow, I signed up for this. Now this is happening. Besides just the logistics of all the flights and everything to get there, and the cars and the trains and it was a lot to figure out, but it all came together and actually went really well. Everything was for me went very smoothly, and the flight from LA to Doha and then Kathmandu is where we flew into.
Mhm.
And it was interesting seeing Kathmandu, how it was compared to how it's recovered from the earthquake they had not too long ago. And then we acclimatize there, meet our group, and then we take um, this small plane up to Lukla, which is, they say, one of the scariest plane rides you'll ever go on in your life. I don't know if you've watched any of the videos on the Lukla plane, but it is, you fly, literally fly onto this top of this mountain area. Like it's
Wow.
this whole time, and it's interesting. So so you
I'll have to watch the videos now. I haven't.
yeah, you'll be like, whoa. So slowly acclimatize, and that's what this is. So you begin the trek in the village of Lukla, an elevation of 9318 feet or 2840 meters. Over the course of the first 8 days or so, you slowly make your way further into the national park as you hike during the day and sleep in the villages at night, which is what we did. We had a few shorter days, some longer days, but you really are not going with the group we went. It was a 2 to 3 week expedition. They really want everyone to succeed and make it to the summit, or to the base camp, which was our summit that for this adventure. So you're going pretty slow. You're not going more than 10 miles a day. You know, it's usually 6 or 8 miles a day, but I mean, already 9318. If you look at the six pack of peaks that we do, some of our peaks don't even are barely 10,000, maybe 11 might be some of the highest 10-ish. And
Yeah.
so, and then if you do Mount Whitney, that's 14. So we started 93 elevation already. So that's already pretty high.
Yeah.
And so each day you just have to acclimatize, take your time. And it's just so beautiful. You want to see everything as you're going up and not rush in any way from my perspective. So, and then on day 8, you reach your final destination of Mount Everest Base Camp at an elevation of 17,598 or 5,364 meters. So that is where all the top climbers from around the world begin their ascent up to the tallest mountain in the world of Mount Everest, which is pretty amazing. They actually do spend, upwards of 1 to 3 months at base camp
Wow.
waiting for their opportunity to go up, which is just amazing because we, with our group, we're fortunate because there aren't many groups that go to base camp that actually stay on the glacier. Our group was the only one that stayed that we know of at the time on the glacier itself. And we slept literally at base camp on the glacier
Wow.
when we arrived, which was amazing. A lot of teams just go to the first part, which there's a picture of the base camp where you go on the rock. That's not even quite base camp yet. And then they leave. Our team ended up going, we had some members stay up a little longer and then go down, spent another week. And then some of us went back a little bit earlier once we reached our destination. So along the way, you're also doing one-off hikes to different areas to acclimatize. And so that's what some of this picture is. It shows all the different towns that we would stop in. And one of the highest elevations initially I reached there. So this trek definitely, these were the highest mountains I ever hiked to. 14, just over 14 with Mount Whitney was the highest I had ever done until this, which before I even get to base camp, we did 2 hikes, both reaching, once we reached our little town, we would do more acclimatization hikes. And 2 of the hikes that we did, the one we did right before Kalapatar, which I think might be the next slide maybe. So this is the base camp, the rock where a lot of people stop and then they go down. We continued on another hour and a half where we ended up sleeping right on the glacier, which was so amazing because you hear at night just things falling and crackling around you, and
Wow.
it's moving underneath you a little. You can hear it, and it's just a really interesting place to be and experience. And again, because we were there so early, it was pretty peaceful. So you could hear all of the crackling of everything and the ice breaking off around you. And so the day before we reached here, we climbed Kalapatar, and you have this amazing lookout of, which would be the next picture, the next slide, which would be Kalapatar, was in this little town. And you can see in the picture in the upper left, you might wonder, like, which of those mountain peaks is the actual summit? And you would think it's the one on the right, which seems the tallest, but from this perspective, when you're coming around the mountain, it's actually the smaller gray peak.
One kind of in the back.
Yeah, which is
Wow.
the tallest peak in the world, from this view from Kalapatar. When you go up, that's what you see. And for me, that was my highest I'd ever climbed, which was 18,000 that day. That was our 18,000 day.
Wow.
Some people went up to, I think, 18,300, 4, 5, or 6, and then I stopped at 18,000 because the view was so beautiful there, because the clouds were starting to roll in, and I didn't want to miss seeing it in all its glory, because once the clouds roll in, then you don't see the mountains anymore. So we
It's
just
hard to even imagine the scale. I know, like when I did Mount Whitney, it was hard to just kind of like look down and fathom that, like, I'm here 14,000 feet. I'm sure it was a similar experience. Like, what is this that I'm standing here looking at?
And it's always so great to get there. And I love hiking through the clouds, but for me, I love to be able to see the mountains around the top
Yeah.
of the summit, and go, you don't go that far and then like not be able to actually see it. I'm so glad that we got to see it, because some people go all the way there and they don't actually ever see the mountain itself because it's covered in clouds. So this was like a really amazing sight. So that was a big day of climbing 18,000. I felt like I could barely move. The higher, I just take 2 steps and I could barely breathe. And it was really really because we didn't use oxygen or anything. It was very um, some people used some medicine to help a little bit. I used a half a pill of Diamox each night before,
Mhm.
but otherwise no oxygen. This is just, you just, go slowly so that you don't get headaches and get altitude sickness.
Mhm.
Take your time, eat lots of carbs. They have lots of soups and carbohydrates every night at the tea houses, lots of tea
Mhm.
to help you get there, which was great. So, and then the hike, the pictures on the right were the first, that was on one of the days lower on the mountain by the day 4 or 5 that I reached my highest peak, which was just under 17,000. And that was also a beautiful day. The clouds were starting to roll in, but you could see the mountains around us. And that was just amazing.
Yeah.
I was just so ecstatic to to feel like, wow, my body can do this. I made it. I made it here.
Yeah.
It feels good. Maybe then at that point I will be able to make it to base camp. So that was a good feeling to know that, because base camp was 17,598, and I made it to 17, and then I made it to 18. So things were looking good.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, please, please, like I hope I make it there and don't tap out
Mhm.
because of headaches or something. Because I think most of us were starting to get some headaches or
Mhm.
having a hard time sleeping.
Mhm.
So it was cold too. It
Mhm.
was cold.
How what were the temperatures like kind of
I
during
guess
the day and then at night?
they said it was actually really warm. Some people were wearing shorts, but at night it was cold. We were I was sleeping still in my parka and my sleeping bag
Mhm.
and a parka over my head and a beanie over my head and 3 pairs of socks, because some of the tea houses higher up, they don't have heat, or
Mhm.
some of the rooms didn't have electricity. And so we were just like, and then it gets dark and you just lay there in your bed freezing. Um, and then you just drink a lot of hot tea and then start hiking again and you're okay.
Warm up from the inside out.
Yeah. But the picture in the middle, that was when we actually made it to um, base camp. And those were our tents that we slept in on the ground, just like that. And that was pretty cool to be sleeping right on the glacier and make it there. And once we made it there, I was like, wow, we made it. Like,
Yeah.
yay.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people at that point, their headaches and things were starting to really kick in, and some struggles were starting to happen for some people. But again, we all made it there. So that was awesome. The entire team, we all made it together.
That's
So
cool. I
yeah.
feel like that would be kind of rare. Like at least somebody would normally drop out.
Yeah, well, what I was surprised to learn, and that's why I was so thankful, is because only 65% make it to Everest Base Camp.
Wow.
And I just thought that seems like a really small number to me,
Hmm.
actually, because I mean, it isn't the summit, which reaching the summit is even smaller percent, but that surprised me because, but I guess that's why the team we went with, um, they have done this enough times and they were highly regarded, and we really took our time getting there and acclimatizing. And I think all of that really made a difference to helping us have a successful experience and reaching our goals. Because some groups you might go with, or people that maybe don't have the same experience or knowledge, you may not make it. And that was kind of the bummer of it all, to go through all of this and not make it.
Yeah.
But it would still be a beautiful place to go and explore. Even if we didn't, we would still be grateful for the experience and the camaraderie. And but it's such a majestic place. It's beautiful. People are so friendly, and we just lucked out with having these blue skies, and the weather was amazing. So
What's that tent? The kind of different shaped tent in the way back of that picture?
oh yeah, that's funny you ask. So we also lucked out that there were some times you had to pay extra for a shower, where the showers were outside in as you got higher up. So there were times that we didn't shower. Some of us didn't shower. In the beginning I did, but later on it was just too cold to go outside and then shower in these little huts. Well, that was the shower hut. They set up a shower hut, and they would take the ice or some of the snow near us and they would melt it, and we'd have this hot water, and it was our one of our first hot showers we had right on the glacier in this tent. Everything was set up so, oh, it was one of the most amazing showers
I bet.
ever. It was just so great. So in some of my pictures my hair was still wet from the being in the shower, and um and actually, like in one of our group pictures, my friend Norm, he was still in the shower while we were all taking our group picture. I'm like, hey man, you know, when you get that chance to you just take it, because it was just a neat experience to be able to do that way up there, so far away from civilization, to have our own little unit. And then we had an amazing tent also set up with a chef that he would cook all of our soups
Cool.
and our food each day. It's amazing how they carried everything and worked so hard, and they carried the majority of our gear. And I mean, they just are strong, phenomenal people. We all just were feeling so grateful and thankful for them and their help, helping us all make it there. So yeah, it was cool.
I see your group pictures here. So how many of that group was made up of guides and porters, and how many was hikers in your group?
Yeah, the very middle picture you can see that was our entire group. We had I would say 2 or 3 main guides, and then we had different help along the way. And there's a difference between the Sherpas and the porters, and you can Google that and research that more. It'd take me a while to go into depth because it's based on the whole heritage of the area, about who is classified as who and how it works. But it was very, I mean, they are just amazing. I didn't put a picture on there during these with the slide series, but they let us like carry our own gear with this headband that they would wear over their head, carrying it up these mountains. The rest of our stuff, we just had these smaller backpacks for the experience. But they are so incredibly strong, and we were in awe of every one of them. They were just really, I mean, there are even some of my Facebook friends to this day, like they just were, they were really awesome. I think that if anyone is ever on the fence about doing this adventure, I would say go for it, because the people are so helpful and kind, and this is their way of life. So they want, the majority of these people we know do want to have us there, and it helps them and helped us as well. So we had a great team. We had a truly great team of people, and I know it's a memory and experience that none of us will ever forget. So I was thankful for the 6-pack of peaks and all the people that I've met along the way, and for all the opportunities, my family heritage, and all of these experiences that have helped bring me here. Because again, 20 years ago, small town girl, never thought that I would maybe ever leave my little town with one stoplight to go explore the world to the degree that I have since leaving high school, and being able to actually make it, and have reached my dream on some level to be there facing Mount Everest and standing at the base of it, at 17,598 feet. It's pretty awesome. So
very cool.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm gonna open up the questions and see if anyone has any questions for Sonia, or any comments, anything you want to say or ask, you can go ahead and type that in the chat or in the Q&A. But while we're waiting for people to do that, is what what would you say was the most difficult part for you in this adventure?
Of the Mount Everest part,
Yeah.
I think just being away from my family because it was a 3-week experience. We ended up making some changes after we made it to the base camp, and some of our group ended up continuing on, and some of our group ended up going a different direction because I think just having kids at home, I would say, and that's another thing for all of you that are parents out there, have kids. For me personally, it's just hard to be away from them for so long. And even though they were all okay with me having this experience and super supportive, I, as a mom, just have, mom guilt sometimes of doing some of this. And I invited them all to come with me, but they have other priority sports or different things they enjoy more than hiking. So hopefully someday they'll come back with me and do some of these adventures in the hiking world. And hopefully I've instilled that with them by them seeing me do all of these things. So I think for me, the hardest part was just, I think, being gone for, which would have been 3 weeks away from family. We didn't always have Wi-Fi as we got higher up. And I didn't really feel like this was super hard, honestly, of an adventure. I just thought it was a really amazing experience, and I would highly recommend it to others. And it's helped given me also a stepping stone to my next adventures I have planned will be Kilimanjaro and Patagonia, and Croatia's coming up. I have this was a stepping stone also for some of the other adventures as well. So I think the more that you do things like this, the more you realize that there is a big world out there to explore and many new people to meet and places to see and different cultures and food and things to experience. And it's neat to be able to do that. And I'm just very grateful that I was able to reach these goals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about like snow? Like how much of the either the day hikes to acclimatize or the hike up to base camp itself, like how much of it was through snow versus just kind of, it looks like in this picture here, there's obviously snow up higher, but it doesn't seem like there's too much on the ground immediately where you are.
Yeah, this time of year, we just lucked out in March. There was not much snow. The weather was really nice, 60, 70 most of the days. It was too cold at night, again, just to be in the tea houses because some of them didn't have heat. But otherwise, the snow, we didn't have much snow. The trails were great. We did, we slept on a glacier, so that was cold. Up at the base camp, that area was cold, but compared to what they experience in some of the tougher parts of the season, they said it was actually pretty warm. So we ended up having a really good experience. Not much snow. We didn't get much snow. A little bit at night, but not too much.
Crazy storms or anything. What about wildlife? I know something that people ask me about hiking the JMT is like, did you see any bears? I'm not sure if there, like, what kind of wildlife exists out there, but was there any, either from squirrel size up to, snow leopards or bears?
Yeah, we didn't see too much wildlife, so it was pretty calm in that regard. Some birds or different things, and they do have wildlife, but we just did not see much. And I think that most people don't see most of those things that you mentioned, and I don't think bears really there. So there was really nothing to really worry about too much as far as being attacked by anything, or it was a very peaceful experience. And I would say definitely worth it. So
Very cool. All right, well, there's no questions coming in from the audience at this time. So is there anything else you want to share or anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
I would just say through everything that I talked about today, hopefully people have been able to pull from it different ideas or thoughts. And again, if they're just on the fence about doing some of these bigger peaks or doing any of the 6-pack challenge or doing, going down the Grand Canyon or going to base camp or any of these things that I've done, I feel like maybe I've just inspired some people to go for it and try new things. And I mean, if you would like, just let me know. Maybe I'd take you, go with you. So
Awesome.
always up for a challenge.
And where can people find you to ask you any questions they may have after, or
Yeah, you can just go, I guess, on the ambassador site. I think there's some connections there on Instagram as well, and Messenger. But I'm always open to answering any questions or helping people, or if people would like to have someone help them reach their goals, I'm happy to be that person too. So
thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your adventures and your history. I know I really enjoyed it. And
thank you.
I feel inspired. I want to go to Everest Base Camp now.
I want you to go too. Maybe you go to Kilimanjaro with me.
That would be awesome.
Get you out there after all these weddings and events you have going on.
Yeah. For my busy schedule calms down a little, maybe I can.
Exactly. Next year.
Yes.
So
All
right. Well, thanks for having me, and I will see you on the mountains.
All right.